it's just like someone cut the cord from my brain to my body. And in just the seconds that this is going on, I'm just questioning everything about my life.
So Rob, I really appreciate you joining tonight. We kind of got done doing some introductions of our own here just a moment ago, and so this is truly raw and unfiltered, and people are going to get to see a side of both of us that is very real. We've never actually met before in person. This is the first time we were interacting and connecting, and so this conversation is probably going to go in some very interesting directions. But I'm really excited about this. Really looking forward to allowing you to tell your story and put it out to more people, especially with your book launch and everything else going on. So once again, I'm going to let you start this thing off. Give us the story, give us the background, and we will keep it going from there.
Yeah, sounds good. First off, just thanks for having me. I'm absolutely thrilled for this. And yeah, going to be a lot of fun. So to kind of give you the background on me, based in the Sacramento Valley, it's where I grew up. And growing up, it was just hot summers and sports. I am a lifelong athlete, and I grew up kind of playing the like traditional three big American sports: football, basketball, baseball, and always had a knack for contact. Like I just loved putting my shoulder into someone. And I was like the biggest guy in my class. You know, I'm 6'5", and I was always just like good at throwing my weight around. So I love football. I go over to high school at Jesuit High School in Sacramento. Okay. And then I hear of this weird sport called rugby. And I'm like, what the heck even is this? And they're like, oh yeah, it's like football, but without pads. And it's like soccer, and that is continuous. I'm like, okay, football and soccer, like, wait, great comparison, like two polar opposites. How is this like connecting? Yep. So anyways, I was getting ready to think like, okay, am I going to play basketball again in my sophomore year? And I'm just, like I said, measly 6'5". We had another guy who was like 6'10", 6'8" in the grade above me. I'm like, even if I make this team, I think I'm going to ride the pine. And I don't want to just be like a one sport athlete, or honestly ride the pine. So I decided to give rugby a shot, because not only did it sound like this really cool game, but Jesuit High School is the #1 high school program in America. I think they've got like 10 national championships now. So
fun fact real quick. My parents actually lived in Sacramento for 3 years while I was
in
really?
School.
And yeah. I guess sorry, they lived in Folsom. I apologize. They lived in Folsom. But
yeah, that's where I grew up actually.
And so they were they loved that part of the country during their 3 years there. So
that's awesome.
But that's I actually kind of know your part of the country a little bit better than maybe I led on initially.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It's like you think like California, and everyone's like, oh yeah, San Francisco, LA, stuff like that. And everyone's like, Sacramento. I think I like drove through there once when I was like going to Tahoe. It's like that kind of thing. So
we all love Tahoe.
Yeah. Oh gosh, incredible. But yeah, I mean, I love it here. It's awesome. And yeah, like really big rugby town, actually, like one of the biggest in America. I think it's pretty safe to say that our area has produced more of our like United States rugby players than any other town or area in America. So it's pretty cool. And I really I decided to give it a shot in my sophomore year. So I'm like 16 years old, kind of trying out a sport for the first time. And I just fall in love with it. I mean, it's 80 minutes of play. You just got like halftime in the middle, and it's continuous, and we're going out there. Like we don't have like some coach telling us what to do at every step of the play. And I liked that. I also liked how there's a lot of camaraderie with the game. So like, like in high school, like we'd have like pizza and Gatorades like together after the game. And then once you're like drinking age in college, you like go to bars and like pubs and stuff like that, talking about the game and these like moments that you all had with each other. So it's pretty cool that you could really beat the snot out of each other for 80 minutes and then like come together and do that. Because with my experience in football, you were just like mortal enemies for life if you played someone in a high school football game. So
pretty much.
I loved it. It was great. And so UC Berkeley has the #1 rugby program at the collegiate level in America, 33 national championships at this point, with the tournament only being around for about 50 years. So just unparalleled level of success, and a pretty natural pipeline historically to go from Jesuit to Cal, being that we're just about a couple hours away from each other. So I did really well at Jesuit. I mean, I got MVP my first year playing. Team captain. We were second in the nation in my junior and my senior year, which was like a real bummer being second in the nation. Yeah, like
I feel
real
like you're a number
letdown.
one kind of guy. If you're not number one, you're last sort of
It
situation.
stings. It
Yeah.
stings. So, anyways, I do really well there. Get my shoulder tap to go play for UC Berkeley. So my dreams are like coming together. I'm at my freshman year, just kind of like on the bottom of the totem pole. I'm putting in work. I'm kind of like I'm developing. And the guys who are like the starters were just incredible. And then by my sophomore year, the position that I played called lock kind of opened up. So it was sort of if someone wanted to raise their hand, they would probably get the spot. And I went for it. I mean, I put in a lot of training, really intensely dieting, extra hours. I get the starting spot as a sophomore, which isn't really an easy or common thing to do. And then our team was having a really successful year, and we're going to compete for a national championship, which would be our 31st national championship in about 45 years. So it was just a good time to be me. I mean, that was going well. I was getting into the Haas School of Business over at Cal, which was like a lifelong dream of mine. Getting ready to start a good internship over at Intel in Folsom, actually, which you mentioned. I mean, I loved my life. I loved my life, and I really wouldn't trade anything for it.
All right, real talk. Whether I'm gearing up for a tough workout or preparing for an episode of The Cameron Brown Show, I need to be locked in. And that's where A-Bomb Energy comes into play.
This stuff isn't just another energy drink. It was actually created by an Army Special Ops combat medic who wanted something better, something that actually helps you think clearer, focus longer, and retain information, not just give you a quick caffeine spike. And I can tell you, it really works. I've been drinking A-Bomb before I hit the gym, and it's like flipping a switch. My focus is on point, my energy is steady, and I don't get that crash afterward. Same when I'm recording this podcast. I need to be sharp, engaged, and A-Bomb helps me stay in the zone. Plus, it actually tastes great. So if you're looking for something that gives you a real mental and physical edge, go check them out at abombenergy.com. And when you order, just type Cameron in the notes so they know that I sent you. Trust me, you're going to feel the difference.
So I remember waking up in the morning of this championship game. It's May 6, 2017. And it's like a beautiful day in Santa Clara. We're playing Arkansas State on this day, which I'm not really an American rugby historian, but I don't think they've ever won a national championship. And like I said, we're going for number 31. We felt really confident going into this game. And we did a big film analysis. We knew their strengths and what to look out for, just weaknesses, how we're exploiting them. And I'm kind of getting dressed. We have a pregame meeting, get on the bus, get taped up in the locker room, really intense environment, but really like a been there, done that kind of approach with this team because that's who we are. That's what we were doing.
Right.
And then I remember really early on in this game, I'm competing in a mall. So we're talking like a minute and a half into this game. We're about 5 meters out, and a mall is one of the bigger guys. We group up in a single unit, and then we push to advance the ball. And the defense's job is to come straight in and stop us from moving forward.
Right.
Very much a boiler room. It's like where the big guys thrive. And I was a big dude, 6'5", 245 pounds. Like I'm on this field to move people, just moving bodies that don't want to get out of the way. So like I said, we're 5 meters out from scoring. I'm practically drooling here on the field thinking, let's go, Rob, drive this thing in. But as I do that, the opposing players, they start making illegal moves and the referee's not calling anything. So first 3 players entering from the side, which are all infractions in rugby, things you can't do, but the referee's not calling it. And then their number 8 comes in and he binds me in a headlock. So he's kind of got my chin pinned down to my chest. Now, normally in rugby, that's an automatic yellow or a red card. If you do that, you're gone from the game right away. They won't even let that play out. But the ref doesn't call it. So I'm kind of got my shoulder level forward, head pinned down, legs moving, and another player chops me down by my legs. So I start falling down. I'm trying to get my head up, but I can't do it. This guy's got his full weight down, cranking on my neck. And I remember I just kind of closed my eyes and grip my teeth for impact. The top of my head hits the ground, but my body keeps going forward and the pile lands on me. My forehead slams against my chest and it's just poof.
Jeez.
Like god awful crunch in my neck. Adrenaline's running at this point, right? So I didn't really feel like pain, but it was like a numbing sensation. And then it's just like someone cut the cord from my brain to my body. Intense pins and needles everywhere. Like when you take a nap and, you wake up, your hand's dead, falling asleep, like that, as intense as you can imagine, from about my collarbone down. And I'm kind of like instinctually thinking, okay, get up. Because in rugby, you fall down a lot and you just get up, you just keep moving. And I'm not like instinctually getting up. And I'm like, okay, well, let me start like kind of testing some stuff out. Okay, like roll your hips over, like kind of get your torso activated. Nothing's happening. Oh my gosh. Okay, so maybe like wiggle your toes or something. Nothing. I'm kind of on my chest, looking down and to the left, looking at my left hand on the ground. I'm like, just move it. I mean, it was like I was just decapitated. I mean, I was not connected to my body at all. Keep in mind, the play is still going at this time. The referee didn't stop.
You were not unconscious at any point of this.
Not even for a brief second. No, like completely lucid, just as aware as I am right now in this conversation. And I mean, talk about terror during all this. Because I'd seen injuries happen like this before, not in person, but online or watching TV. And, you just get the updates years later, and a lot of these people don't have much of a physical progression. It's because it's the nature of the injury. They're catastrophic, they're chronic. And in just the seconds that this is going on, I'm just questioning everything about my life. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, am I ever going to be able to feed myself ever again? Am I going to go to school? Am I going to be able to pick up my phone? Am I going to be able to go to the bathroom, shower, dress, anything? And then you start making implications from that. It's like, well, okay, I'm not going to be able to go to school. I'm not going to be able to see my friends. I'm probably never going to get married. I mean, who in their right mind would want to marry into this? I'm probably, if I'm not going to get married, I'm not going to have a family. I'm just going to kind of live out this life. My mom's and family's probably going to take care of me, spoon feed me and point me out a window. And then one day my mom's going to die. And then I'm just going to have a caretaker who I don't really know keeping me alive. And I'm just going to die alone. And I'm 20 years old at the time, really my whole life ahead of me. And I'm thinking like, it might be over. And that whole time I'm kind of like holding on to a little bit of hope though. I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is just like some kind of weird fluke stinger type deal. We just need to like kind of retweak some stuff. I need to give my body like a few days and then I'll be all right. I can just go start playing rugby again. And when I knew it was like really bad, I was getting stretchered off the field. And what do people do when they get stretchered off as athletes? A lot of times they give a thumbs up, right?
Right.
And I really wanted to give a thumbs up, but I was like, I'm not even going to try because like I know deep down I'm not going to be able to do it. And then one of our family friends was there, and he was kind of on the sidelines, and I remember him yelling, "Robert, give us a thumbs up." And I mean, I tried as hard as I could just to turn my wrist over and put my thumb up. I couldn't get anything. And I'm just thinking, this is bad. This is really bad. And I get started over onto the paramedics. We go over to the hospital, medical imaging, CT scan, X-ray, MRI. Body is already like peaking a fever up to 103 degrees steady, one like brief peak at 105. So my body just doesn't know what to do. And I can't really lift my arms maybe more than like 2 inches off of the bed at this point. And my doctor eventually comes in. He's got a bad look on his face. And he just says, very matter of fact, "Robert, what happened to you is bad, really bad. And the reality is you will never walk again. You will never move your hands. And we're going to do our best so that one day you can do something like pick up a piece of pizza and bring it to your face. And if you can do that, you made it. If you can just feed yourself, you beat all the odds." And then he doesn't stop there and kind of give me a moment to think about stuff. He's like, what happened is the disc in between your C5-6 vertebrae ruptured into your spinal cord under all that pressure. And you have fracturing at your C5 and your C6 vertebrae as well. And the damage that was done to your spinal cord might only continue to increase unless we perform an emergency spinal fusion surgery, essentially permanently casting this area of your spine together. It's going to be your best chance at stability and recovery, but it is a potentially life-threatening surgery. Your body's already very much freaking out right now. Your nervous system doesn't know what's going on. This is a lot of important real estate right here that we're going to be working on. In surgeries like this, there's inherent risk. If something goes wrong, it can get bad very quickly. And you need to know that information. And you have about a half hour to make your decision on whether or not you would like to go into the surgery. So I'm basically sitting here thinking, I just woke up and I thought this was going to be one of the best days of my life. And now I don't even know if this is going to be my last day or not. And I didn't have some doctors saying that everything was going to be okay, or the odds on my side, or signs of life showing up in my body. But I had this athlete's mindset that was instilled in me before this, and I'd been working on for years in my life, where if there is some infinitesimally small chance that I can do this, I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to give it absolutely everything I have. And if I want to be in the top 1% of outcomes, then that means that I need to be in the top 1% of workers. And that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to focus on. So I decided to go into that surgery. And I remember I waited to have a priest come into the room to give me the sacrament of anointing the sick. I was literally preparing that like for heaven, like that I could possibly die here in the next hour. And we said our prayers, and I said goodbye to my family. You know, they'd give me like a, you know, little kiss on the cheek or something, but not a hug or anything. I couldn't move my neck at all, or I could just remove any shred I had of progress. And I got rolled into that operating room, and I just remember like looking up straight as I'm getting rolled down the hallway, and you see the lights just kind of panning in front of you, just crying. And they put that gas mask over my mask. You start at 100 and you start counting down. I think I made it to like 97, and I got knocked out, and that concluded May 6th of 2017 for me.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So I've got, well, a million different questions as it relates to religion and depression, anxiety, and what was going through your head and where you went, like what was going through your mind during all this. Because you're literally, your head is, your brain is working, your body is not. You're completely disconnected. And I've seen those videos though, right? I mean, we all have. I've seen those videos of people just completely collapsing. They get hit in football, their body just completely goes numb. To your point, you never think it's going to happen to you, right? And I think of I say this because of all people for it to happen to, obviously you've made the most of the situation, which is amazing. And we will dive into plenty of that, I'm sure, in just a moment. I want to go just real quick to that day. At the end of that day, how long after you knocked out and they took you into surgery did you then wake up to then move into this next phase of your life?
Yeah, I believe it was about 8 hours. I think the surgery itself was about like a 6 to 8 hour surgery.
Okay.
So yeah, about that amount of time. And I mean, I was just like so groggy. It was like middle of the night. And I was kind of hoping just that like I would wake up and everything would just be fine, you know, and they'd be like, "Hey, we found this like, you know, kink in the wiring or something like that, and you're like clear to go home, like enjoy your breakfast and don't forget to leave a tip." And I woke up and it was not the case. It was very real. Yeah.
So, and that's been how many years now?
Almost exactly 8 years. May 6th of this year will be 8
years. Okay. So you have also, we're once again plenty of questions here. You've obviously progressed dramatically since then, and I think that is a lot of this story that you are telling. Is that, you know, if there's a will, there's a way, and also there's a huge religious component of this too. So I'm gonna kind of go back to that because you had all these thoughts running through your brain when it first occurred, and then after your surgery, what was running through your brain the first couple of weeks, few months after your surgery? Because you came out of the surgery realizing it wasn't just a kink in the wiring; it was a bit more than that you had to overcome. So what was going through your head there, and what were some of the mental struggles? And did you question everything, or did you question nothing at all? Did you become stronger in your beliefs immediately? Once again, those are just kind of some of the questions that come to mind.
Yeah. So these first 2 weeks and the the dialogue that I had in my brain were really the most critical dialogues that I've probably ever had, and really just set the trajectory for what was going to happen. And it's now 8 years. First, I'll focus on the topic of faith, because it's something that's critically important to me. It's kind of like, it's just its own journey in and of itself. And I'm a lifelong Catholic, so that's always been very important to me. Like Catholic school, K through 12, just like really built into my foundation.
Yep.
And I always believed that God had a plan for me, and that plan was good. And it would always just seemed like I had been kind of given like the easy deck of cards, where it's like, okay, I'm like, have a very privileged upbringing. There was really nothing I could possibly want. And I remember like doing like college applications, and it's like, what's the hardest thing that's ever happened to you? And I'm like, I don't know, being number 2 in the nation in rugby. Like, I mean, it's like, it's not like real hardship, I didn't endure any of that. And I really just sought to use the gifts that I had been given for the benefit of others, in community service and things like that. And here I found myself in a completely different situation where, I mean, I looked around at all my friends, and it was like, objectively, my situation is the most difficult. Nobody would trade me to be in my situation, and to like give up theirs. So I was like this radical trust in God in the beginning,
Right.
whereas like I have no clue what's going on right now, and I cannot possibly see how I can even think about helping someone else right now, because I can't help myself in the slightest regard. But I am going to submit my trust to that. And it all started in that when I had that priest come over before my surgery. And I had like a spiritual director at the time. He was not the priest who came over, but I called him because I wanted him to find someone. And that was really my objective. But it was in that phone call that he just told me these words that really gave me a lot of power in what should have been a powerless situation. And he said, Robert, what happened to you is terrible. And throughout this journey, there's going to be a lot of things that you can't control. But the one thing you can control is your mindset. So your positivity, your ambition, your willingness to wake up every day and fight is up to you. This injury cannot and will not take that away from you. That's up to you. And it gave me something that I could focus on. It gave me something that I could control. I could not control what happened to me, and I could not control how my body was going to respond.
Right.
But I had those like inputs of effort and discipline and positivity too, to be able to like not give words to all that was bringing me down. I could have those feelings. That's not something anyone can control.
Right.
But what I allowed out of my mouth, that's something that I could control. And so that really helped me in that regard to like get on the right foot and just be like, from a faith perspective, I'm not going to make any determinations right now. I'm just going to play this one out. And honestly, like, what do I have to lose right now? Because I'm already in such a rough spot. I need something that's going to be able to pick me up.
Right.
So that was kind of like, that was the initial onset of things, was just like kind of taking inventory of what's going to happen. And then like things that were going on in my head in these first 2 weeks. So first it was just like, what the hell happened to me? It's really hard to explain like what just general life feels like when you lose your physical abilities in that way.
Right.
I think the most accurate way I can describe it is, it was like if I was playing that rugby game and I closed my eyes, I opened them, and then I found myself like in the streets of Beijing. You're just like, whoa, what just happened? I'm like, nothing is familiar anymore. And it seemed like that. It was almost like I had begun this new life entirely. I had branched off from how my like life was supposed to be going into something new. And wrapping my head around that was really, really difficult. I did not want to think about having to potentially spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. At the time, of course, I could not feed myself. At the time, I couldn't even swallow. So I couldn't eat, and they had to shove a tube up my nose and into my stomach. So I was shedding weight like crazy. I lost 60 pounds in a month. So literally 2 pounds a day I was losing. I then got pneumonia on like day 3, which is horrible for anybody, right? But was really dangerous for me.
And while still in the hospital though.
Yeah, like
Okay.
early on, still in the hospital. And I mean, I was like every 3 hours they would come in and someone would start slamming down on my chest to move the mucus out of my lungs because I couldn't cough it out on my own. If something got stuck in my windpipe, it was just like a short breath I could produce because my diaphragm was mostly paralyzed. So it would just get stuck. And I'm just like looking at my oxygen levels just plummet, horribly scared, just trying to get the words help out so someone can help me. But yeah, every 3 hours they would come in to do that. Every 2 hours they would come in to move my body so I didn't get a bed sore. And then every 1 hour they would come in to check my vital signs. And I just didn't sleep. I just craved like a 20-minute doze here or there.
Yep.
And that kind of added to that like mental torment component. But that like control your mindset just kept coming back to me, where it was like, okay, Robert, we need to shove this tube up your nose and your stomach. It took 3 days to get in. It was very intentional for me to say like, okay, let's do it. And I would just kind of knuckle down, I'm crying, there's blood going in my mouth. But if I want to eat, this tube has to go in or I will die. Control your mindset. Or it's 3 a.m. and someone says, okay, we're going to start slamming down on your lungs for the next 30 minutes to get this mucus out so we can beat this pneumonia. Control your mindset. I have to, or I'm going to die. I mean, it was that kind of situation.
And you are still, so your body is numb, but just from a feeling perspective, what are you feeling though? Like what other feelings were you having below your neck? Because all these things are good. You can't control your body, but are you feeling this though?
Yeah. So again, intense pins and needles.
Okay.
There's also just like, they call them like phantom sensations and stuff. Okay. So I would feel sometimes like my legs were just like twisted into a pretzel kind of thing. I'm just like, can you move my legs? And they're like, they look down, they're like, they're perfectly straight, Robert, you're fine. And I'm thinking like, what the heck? And, but I always had like deep pressure sensation. So you could put a knife into my leg and it wouldn't hurt, but I could feel it. So when in these injuries, things become very relative, and relatively, that was actually a very good thing that I had some kind of feeling in my leg. And so that's kind of like what I was feeling. But in terms of all that, the biggest feeling was just exhaustion. I was completely exhausted, and that's all north of the shoulders, and I felt every bit of it.
So with that being said, and kind of a follow-up to this too, one of the biggest things that comes to my mind right now is thinking about like friendships and family during this period of time too. Your support system was probably huge during all of this. Did you make new friends through this? Have you lost friends and connections? What has that kind of been like? Because you mentioned all these thoughts that were going through your head when you were laying on the field and your body was numb. But have your relationships changed dramatically since this occurrence?
Certainly. Okay. And like in good ways and bad. It's polarizing. So in good ways, like my family, my goodness. I mean, my mom slept on a chair by my bedside for 2 nights. It was unbelievable. And my brother, I mean, he wasn't there for my injury, and he came down just before my surgery. He held my phone in front of me so I could FaceTime my best friends, tell them I love them, and tell them that I might not see them again.
Right.
He typed messages to my rugby team, to like a retreat group that I did in high school. And I mean, he was there for me every second. The day after my injury, we had the entire rugby team sitting in the lobby, ready to come in and see me one by one. I mean, my therapist, I met such great friends there, and like other people going through injuries exactly like mine and exactly the same time. Made friends with them. And gosh, when I came back to Cal, my rugby coach, Tom Billups, did my rehab for 2 years. 2 years. Wow. He did like 5-6 days a week. We would get in the gym and we'd work on walking. And he was not some neurological recovery type therapist.
Yeah.
Here he was just a rugby coach, and he knew how to get people strong. And we took that kind of sports science and performance and put it into rugby, where some of my most significant accomplishments were with Coach Billups, the rugby coach. My entire rugby team, once I returned to Cal, set up a spreadsheet of all my classes and workouts. So the hills of Berkeley are nuts. And most people probably know that San Francisco's hills are crazy. It's just like that in Berkeley. They make movies about these things. They're crazy. So they had this spreadsheet and they helped me get me around. So I just had a posse of like 5 rugby guys with me wherever I went so that I could return to campus. And I can truthfully say I would not have graduated if it weren't for that rugby team. So it's just amazing the way people showed up in that. And then also a GoFundMe page that we started. I'm sure you can imagine that breaking your neck is not a good financial decision. It's pricey. So we needed help.
Well, I can imagine with, I'd just say small things on my end, sprained ankles, lower back issues, torn hamstrings, concussions, et cetera. They all add up, but they are nothing in comparison, right? And I'm just, as we're going through and having this conversation, I literally went to physical therapy this morning for the first time ever because second time ever. I'm very stubborn when it comes to like going in for physical therapy. And after leaving this morning, I realized the importance of going and having these conversations because our bodies are obviously very, very important. And you can say that and you can think that, but then of course anything can happen at any moment to take that away from us. I think we really need to truly appreciate that and appreciate what we have, which goes back to your mindset, right? Because at any point we could have anything taken away from us. So it's truly important to have that mindset, but also to
appreciate
and to keep ourselves as in shape as possible with the abilities that we have.
100%.
But those are things about waking up from concussions in high school football, right? You wake up and you're kind of like, I forgot every single football play. Those were days where I was just kind of thinking to myself, what have I done to myself? Why am I playing this sport? And the thoughts that go through your mind afterwards are absolutely absurd. But literally nothing in comparison to your situation. So I keep going back to that to say, these are things that I think everybody's experienced, maybe pain in their body, but to lose the ability and the function to move, I don't truly know how I would deal with that. And so to go towards faith immediately is incredible. And to have that connection, that relationship with God is amazing. Where not everybody has that relationship, right? Not everybody has the ability to be mind over matter, truly. So for your story that you're telling is incredible in so many different ways. But also it's probably really nice having your rugby coach there for 2 years to be like, hey, it is truly mind over matter. And to be like your David Goggins in your corner of the story.
You have to have it. Yeah. I mean, you must have it. We just can't do anything important alone. And I think a lot of us think that tough or gritty thing to do is to not ask for help and just keep marching forward. Don't tell anyone. They think asking for help is a weak thing to do. And in reality, it's a very strong thing to do. There's just so much more that you can do because you're right. It was an immense challenge. And like, I'm happy you brought that up because when I tell this story, I don't want people to just kind of like dismiss what they're going through because it's very real and you don't have to break your neck to have a significant challenge in front of you. There's a myriad of ways that we can be paralyzed mentally and emotionally. But I do think that some kind of comparison is actually pretty healthy. And there's this saying that I use a lot when I need that healthy perspective, and it's called compared to what. So I'll be like, man, I'm really tired, but compared to what? Or there's a lot that I'm going through right now, but compared to what? There's a lot that I can do. There's a lot that I do have. And like I said, that statement is not meant to dismiss our challenges. I think it's really unhealthy if we just dismiss our challenges. If we do that, it just ignores it. It'll never go away. But what it is meant to do is just put our challenges into perspective so that we don't have to see the mountain of a task that's in front of us, but we can put it down into size, to steps that we can start taking to keep moving forward. So when I think of all these like hard moments that I've gone through, I've been able to draw back on things that I've been through in my experience, far worse things I've seen other people go through, and just put those challenges into perspective so that I can keep moving forward. So you got that strong perspective, you got a really strong support system. There's a lot further you can go.
100%. I actually considered calling this the Perspective Podcast for a little while because I was like, I really want people to better understand other people's experiences so they can then take that and understand life a little bit better by understanding what other people have been through. I think it's super important. And to your point about comparing, like we all play the kind of compare game, right? I try not to compare myself too much, but to your point, comparing it to really gain perspective is huge and so necessary. And just once again realizing the blessing that we have in front of us every single day to be able to breathe on this earth. I think that's kind of the biggest part of this too. And I think about it and I won't go into specifics because they might watch this podcast, but there are certain individuals where you hear their stories and they tell their stories maybe on a daily basis, or you might see them once a month, and you think to yourself, I might have it bad, but other people have certain situations that are potentially worse. And I need to understand how and appreciate the life that I've been given and the things that I have in front of me, and figure out, to your point, back to what you said initially, how can I take these blessings and this upbringing and these connections or whatever it is that I have and do the best I can possibly do for this world. Which it seems like it's all encompassing of exactly what you're doing right now and what you're focused on doing with your message, which is amazing.
It is. It exactly is. And when you talk about like using that positive perspective, I think that it's actually really doing a service to the person who's going through the difficult situation too.
Yep.
Because when someone's talking to me and they're like, Robert, like, I just want to say I totally know what you're going through. I hurt my ankle really bad once, and I was in a boot for like a month. I had crutches and it was hard to go upstairs and stuff. So like, I just want to let you know that like I can relate. And I'm like, did you not get like any of this?
Did you not hear anything I just said?
Yeah. Did anything come through? Like if you just kind of like, ignore it, then I think it's really doing a disservice to the person who's going through a difficult situation.
Yeah.
But when someone comes up to me and they're like, Robert, I hurt my ankle really bad. I've been in this boot and crutches, but I've seen what you're going through and I'm just so inspired. I know I can overcome this.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa, this injury is kind of a gift because it's giving me an ability to help others through their challenges. So when people use that kind of like positive perspective and they let me know, I love it. And it just like, it builds meaning, it builds purpose in my life and behind this injury. And really honestly gives me something that I would not have had if I didn't break my neck. So I think like that using perspective in a really positive way and just letting people know how they're helping you, I think that's just like a really good gift that you can give to someone.
It's such an insane mindset shift though, that like not many people have the ability to do, right? And I think this is where you're also, I mean, those people that really have that traumatic experience in their life and they're trying to get a mindset shift into making something positive of a very negative situation. That is quite literally what you're able to help people do. And I think that is that's a huge, it seems like a huge part of what you are working on doing and the value that you bring to other individuals, which is amazing. So with everything else going on, so let's just kind of break down the last 8 years. You went from being bedridden, pneumonia, all these other issues, to then now you are walking.
Yeah.
Which is huge. So can you just break down like timeline, like when big milestones started to get hit, and just, once again, maybe some of those things that helped you to overcome those challenges throughout the past 8 years?
Yep. Been quite a journey. And the first year is when you really see a lot of like your big progress in any neurological recovery. So I eventually go from the hospital I was in Santa Clara to a place called Craig Hospital, which is in Denver, Colorado. Really good outlook there. They're cutting edge. They specifically focus in spinal cord injury and traumatic brain injury. And I get over there and I have a conversation with my team and my head neurologist. He's just like, Robert, yeah, what happened to you is terrible, but we don't know where you're going to progress from here. And you might walk out of these doors. You might not, but we're going to give you everything we've got. And they just gave me that really just like strong, realistic bit of hope. So it's like nothing is guaranteed throughout this, but we're going to push for everything we can. And I really went for it. I mean, it was 8 to 9 hours of really intense rehabilitation a day. And I think the first real sign of life that I started seeing was just like a twitch in my finger. And I'm like, I'm trying to squeeze my hand as hard as I can. And I get a twitch in my finger. That was about like 6 weeks after my injury. And then I look down maybe a week later down at my toes. I'm trying to wiggle my toes and I get a flicker in one of my toes. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like it was Father's Day. That was in June of 2017. Like this is kind of waking up.
Yeah.
This might actually happen. I'm starting to I'm getting some evidence that this work I'm doing is paying off. And then my physical therapist, they look at that and they're like, oh my gosh, Robert, now we can get you walking. And I'm like, oh hold on. Like I can
flicker.
I can kind of do a little bar trick right now. Like my toe, like that is not going to get me up and walking. But that's where their genius really started to shine. And I remember like huge moment for me when I took like my first like highly assisted steps. They hooked me up to a winch that was on a track in the ceiling, so I could go down and back, but it'd catch me if I fell. Really heavy duty walker, and then there was a therapist behind me on a short stool, just kind of like shoulder, like kind of right in the middle of my legs, holding my knees back to lock them out. And we're like, we're just gonna like see what happens. No expectations. We could just like winch me up like a pinata, and I'm just gonna like hang there. We had no expectations at all. But they got me in my legs straight, and they're like, all right, Rob, like try to move your leg forward. And I'm just like gritting my teeth. I'm doing everything I can. And my leg like pops forward, my knee pops up. We're all kind of like taken aback for a second. It's all right, plant it down. So I focus really hard on planting it down. And it's like, all right, other leg, bring it forward. Again, like maximal effort, like 1 rep max type mentality goes forward. We go again and again and again. It took me 2 hours, but I made it about 50 yards down and back. And I remember after that, I got back to my room. I just cried because I was like, I had prayed about this so much. I had worked so hard at this, and just there was so much fear in my heart that I wouldn't be able to do something like this. I was just so grateful. I started crying just to be able to get hung up in a winch and walk down and back 50 yards. Huge moment. And as we kind of like kept solving this puzzle, pieces kept coming together, and new muscles would wake up, and I get stronger. And I could go, from where I couldn't even think about like picking up my phone to where I'm starting to like open water bottles, and I can like, fold out a deck and like start flipping cards around, like dexterity things. And eventually I get rid of that winch in the ceiling, and I can start walking like in an actual walker, and then no assistance in that walker. And I eventually walked out of those hospital doors and I got back to Cal, and I did my rehab with my coach, and I graduated, and I stood on my feet to get that sheepskin, and I threw it in the air as hard as I possibly could. And here I am now. For the folks who can see it on video, I mean, I'm talking like an Italian here with my hands and, moving those around. It's amazing. The recovery I've had at my upper body, almost a full recovery. I mean, it's incredible. And then in my lower body, I still use a walker, but in that walker, I can walk a maximum of 400 yards, and I work at it every single day.
Good.
And every single day, it just keeps getting a little bit better. I can't always notice the progress. And actually, very often I can't notice the progress. But as those kind of days out into weeks, months, years, it's just undeniable how things continue to progress. So I'm really grateful for just all that's happened, because it's pretty much a miracle.
And you're also married too.
Yeah, that's right. Got married in November 2023.
Okay. So that's another big one, right? I mean, you mentioned that early on, right? You were thinking like, am I going to ever get married? Like, what's that going to look like? Can you kind of walk us through that too, with the relationship and how that progressed? Just a little bit of backstory would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm so happy you asked that, because most people don't. And that was not an easy thing for me, because like I said early on, when I was on that turf, I was like, there's no way that somebody's going to sign up for this, because I take on this challenge every day, and there's still a lot of sacrifices that I have to make. My life is not normal, and I'm sitting in a wheelchair right now. My life is very different, but I don't have a choice. But for someone to come into my life, like in that life partner romantic sense, they have a choice, and there's plenty of fish in the sea. But my wife, Carson, makes that choice every day. And I was so worried, because I looked in a mirror for many years, and I thought I was just unworthy of love, that my life was too difficult, that there were too many challenges to sign on to. And also just like from a physical, like visible sense, I used to take a lot of pride in my body, and, big guy, athlete, like I'd walk in a room and people kind of turn their heads sort of things, and like, hey man, what sport do you play? And now they're kind of turning their heads for different reasons and being like, what happened here? And I looked in the mirror, and I can see the ridges in my sternum and the atrophy in my arms and my legs. And I was really hard to love myself, to be honest. And I remember I got introduced to Carson. We went to like a Christian athlete get together group. It was my first meeting. And she was with a friend of mine who was going to help walk me there. And I thought like, oh my gosh, like I always like tall girls. I'm a tall guy too. And I was like, okay, she's like 6'2", and she's drop dead gorgeous. Like, I'm gonna shoot my shot. And I kind of like do my thing. And I thought it was just like a total swing and a miss. I was like, move on, Robert. She's not interested. I totally misread the situation. It was just me and my self-confidence issues. Lucky for me, one of my buddies is now married, but at the time was dating one of Carson's best friends in college. And he's like, dude, you are an idiot. She really likes you. And so thank goodness for him. And we went on a double date, and because I had come to my senses, like I could actually read the room, and we just like hit it off. We had our first date a week after that, and then married in November of 2023. And she just showed me like how worthy of love that I was, and that all these things that I was all uptight about and I thought that nobody would ever want to sign up for meant nothing. And it's who I was on the inside that really deserved her love. So I think that's just like an important lesson for everybody, no matter what you're going through, that your worth is not just based on like your physicality and your accomplishments and, what things that you can do that you've overcome in the past. I mean, it's who you are inherently as a person, that every single person is worthy of love. And I'm so grateful for her, because she's a lot cooler than me. I definitely married up in that regard. And
that's an amazing story. This is the first time this has happened, so I'm like oddly tearing up right now, and I'm gonna explain why in a second. So this is not ever happened. This is strange. Give me a second. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
So anyways, my niece is 3 years old, and she has a disease called Lee's disease, which basically will keep her from probably being able to truly walk ever. Her life expectancy is 3 years old. So she's turning 3 this next month.
Wow.
And I think about this, and I think about like deserving love and all the above. Sorry. This is terrible. I'm definitely a crier, which is not on podcast.
Thank goodness I'm not the one crying, because I'm an ugly crier. We would have to we'd have to stop the whole thing.
I need to stop. This is awful. All right. But I immediately, that's what came to mind. I was just thinking to myself, I was like, man, there are, once again, you think about your situation, and you can always, so I think about her a lot, and I think about situations like this. I didn't really ever think about how tough it might be on a family, on a loved one, on a person, until she came into this world, and we have been experiencing this with my sister and with their family. But I'm once again, that's an amazing love story. It's huge, and I just oftentimes think about sometimes like the individuals that won't get to maybe experience that, right? And once again, you're not comparing. It's just you always have to think like, man, it could be so much worse in this life. Your story is incredible, and I really appreciate you telling it and being so real and authentic and genuine about it, and being able to laugh about things too, right? I feel like a lot of people cannot laugh about their pain and their struggles, and like a lot of people really struggle with that. And it's like, dude, we all struggle, we all have our pains and our issues. So for you to be able to be so real about it is incredible. But it immediately took me to that space in my head, and I was like, wow, this guy is as real as it gets when it comes to these things. So thank God for people like Rob that can actually tell their stories and connect with people, so they can realize that life is truly amazing. It's truly a blessing. It's truly beautiful. So I don't really know where I was going with that, but I'm just putting that out there.
I thank you for sharing that. I thank you for sharing that with me, because you're right. Like, everything is such a gift, and it's not, you can't really appreciate that gift until you know what it's like to not have it, and to know people who don't have it. So like that, it fuels gratitude, and kind of comes back to that point of like, don't ignore that sort of gratitude and perspective, because it gives power to the person who's going through a struggle. And I also love what you said about like being able to laugh about situations too, because I think that's like another thing that's critically important to my journey, is just being able to like joke around and not be so darn serious all the time. Like, a couple of funny things I write about in the book is, when I got hurt, I wasn't like accepted into the business school at Cal, which is super competitive. You got to do like an essay and interviews, and your resume's got to be dialed up. And I was getting ready to like write that essay. So one of my like best buddies came into the room. He was the first one to visit, and his name's Tyler. And I was like, Tyler, I'm going to be able to write a hell of an application essay now. Like, this is going to be the essay to end all essays with this
They
story.
cannot deny.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. And I had another funny one is I was in the hospital and I started having spasms, like crazy spasms where my body would like cannonball and my legs would shoot out and they'd shake. And at first I was like, what is going on? Is this never going to stop? And they're like, it's totally normal. It's actually kind of a good sign. It shows like nervous system activity. I'm like, okay, fine. And one of my buddies comes to visit. I was kind of like sitting in a hospital bed, laying on my back flat. And we're kind of joking around. And I think he kind of like slaps me on the leg or like, puts his hand on my leg and it triggers a spasm. And my legs like start just shaking like crazy. And I'm like, John, you healed me. Like, John, I can move. And I think for like a second, he's like thinking in his mind, like, what, did I just do that? Like, do I have like the power of God running through my fingers? And oh my gosh, he looks at me afterward, just like, you jerk. But like, it's situations like that to where people wouldn't like come into that room and expect to just see me like quadriplegic, depressed, like not able to move on and just enjoy my life. That it was still me, that I wasn't moving a lot. I was, laying down and that wasn't going to change for some time. But like I was still me and we could have these conversations. And in those moments, it was just kind of like an escape from it all to where I was just me hanging out with my buddies, just so happened to be in a hospital. So like I think that's just like such a big takeaway from all of this, to like find humor in it all.
Yeah, well, once again, we've never met before, and so this being the first time we're talking, I was like, well, how many what kind of jokes is Rob going to make about this? What kind of guy? Yeah. I have no idea what this is going to, which direction this is going to go in. So yeah. I really appreciate that part of it. And once again, just finding the beauty in everything too, and the fun of everything. So you've now written this book, and you're launching it when?
May 6th, the 8-year anniversary. Yep.
Okay. So May 6th, the book comes out. Also, what else? So what else are you doing? What does your work life look like too? And if any, I'm completely curious on that side of things.
Yeah, I'm the luckiest person in the world. That's like my job. So
cool.
Nobody can compete for this title. I just share my story for work now as a keynote speaker. So what an amazing like journey that whole was. Definitely not something I ever saw myself doing.
Right.
But early on, people just kind of like plant seeds. Like, Robert, you got an awesome story. You tell it really well, and your challenges are really visible, but everybody has something that they're going through. And I think that these kind of mental approaches or tools that have helped you be so positive and persevere so well can really help anyone with whatever challenge they're going through. And it was like when I got back to Cal, there was a professor over there who's a great friend of mine still to this day. And he was like, it's so good to have you here, Robert. And I really want you to speak to my class, kind of on that same theme, overcoming what paralyzes us mentally and emotionally. And I write this speech, at first I'm just kind of like reading straight from my notes, looking down in my lap. But they're laughing, they're crying, standing ovation. Here I am, like I go back to my dorm room after that. And I'm like, this is it. This is it. Like, this is what I'm here to do. I had lost my purpose when I couldn't play rugby anymore. And I'm an optimistic guy, but I knew that was never coming back. I was never going to be able to play rugby again. And I needed something that could fill that purpose. And after I gave that speech, I was like, that purpose is back. That cup is overflowing. I need to dedicate the rest of my life to this. And that was the beginning of this journey in speaking, to share this story with as many audiences as I can and help people overcome their challenges. So like I said, luckiest guy in the world to be able to just take what should have been the worst thing that could ever happen to me and turn it into a gift that I can really unite my career and my passions with. So I love doing it.
I love it. This might be a bit of a strange direction to take this, but yours kind of clicked for you, your moment, right? And I often ask, like, what do people define as success? So I want to follow up with that in a moment. But your moment kind of clicked, and after that speech, and you're like, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
A lot of, I would say young men, a lot of guys, let's just focus on guys for a moment. A lot of
Yeah.
guys struggle to figure out what their thing is. So do women, I think people in general, but what is kind of your advice to people that are looking for or searching for their moment, their defining
Mhm.
moment, their thing that they've decided they want to they're going to put all their energy behind and to do?
Yeah.
Doing.
I think the biggest criteria is that it must be selfless, that it can't be just to serve yourself. And I think we find this in any endeavor that we do. Like if you want to like get in really good shape, like
Yep.
sick shape, and it's every year that people set those New Year's resolutions, and a lot of times they're just kind of for themselves. I just want to lose 10 pounds, or
Right.
I want to go to the gym more just to like kind of be healthy for myself. And a lot of times they trickle off, but it's those people who are like, I'm going to give everything I have because I want to be there for my kids when I'm old or with my grandkids, or in a situation like many of us, like I could see you saying something like, I'm going to get after it for my niece because I know how much she would give to be able to just like be able to walk and really use that every bit of the body that you possibly can. And when you have that kind of commitment, it pushes you so much further that when you have those moments when you feel like giving up and you want to kind of let off that gas pedal, you push it down harder because it's not you that you're accountable to, it's someone else. So you must have that selflessness. And
Yep.
it doesn't mean that you have to be in a job. Like mine is very clear, the kind of like selfless mission that I'm on, because I'm like interacting with people one-on-one. It's very emotional in the way that I'm doing it. You can go work for Goldman Sachs with a very selfless purpose that you are going to support your family. You're going to be active in your community and you're going to use this wealth that you've been able to accumulate for the good of others. So that job that you have where you might not be able to like, you can't see like how accounting or investment banking or things like that could necessarily be rooted in a selfless purpose. It's what you're doing with that career and with the wealth that you're producing that I think really helps us achieve great success, far more than if we were ever to just do it for ourselves. So that's that. But then also you really have to want it. And I think that's like the simple yet extremely difficult thing that a lot of it all just comes down to is I've persevered so hard at this because I'm a quadriplegic who wants to walk again. And it's hard to fathom just how intense that desire is to be able to have those physical abilities back. And I want to live with purpose in my life more than anything. And I've been illuminated how this purpose can really help others through sharing this story. So I think there's like two components there: selflessness and just that deep desire. Just if you find those two things in your life and match that up with a career in your interests, that's just going to really push you.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
So what do you, as a follow-up, what do you define as success
Mm,
for, I'd say, for not just yourself, but
yeah.
true success?
Yeah. I've thought about this. So it's actually True Success is the last chapter of my book. And man, I thought about this a lot, and it's changed a lot over the years, because in the beginning of my injury, I was like, true success looks like not needing to use a wheelchair ever again.
Yeah.
And it looks like me standing up and never sitting back down in it. That's what success is. That's what I'm pushing for. And as time goes on, and I've had amazing interactions with people telling me how my stories inspired them, overcoming some really difficult things. I mean, death of family members, stage 4 cancer, suicidal ideations, like things that are really hard to wrap one's head around, and how my injuries helped them. It's really shaped this, because I think true success is being able to take everything that this world presents to us and still be able to live with positivity and gratitude for each day and purpose. So I wake up and I'm in a wheelchair right now. And I have spent the last exactly 2,901 days as a quadriplegic. And the odds actually point to that I will never get out of this wheelchair again, that I will spend the rest of my life working at this, and it just won't happen. That's what the statistics very strongly say. That's the probable outcome. If I don't ever get out of this wheelchair again one day, does that mean that I'm just a failure and that I never achieve success? And I think the answer is absolutely not, because I wake up each day grateful for the day. that I've got positivity. I have things I'm looking forward to. I have purpose in my life. I'm looking to make a positive impact on the lives of others, that I've achieved a level of success that's so much greater than being able to walk from point A to point B on my feet. I think that's just true success for all of us, that it's not always like those physical outcomes, that wealth that comes in, but it's the gratitude we have for our lives and the impact that we're making on others. That's what really matters. And that's a legacy. That's something that just lives on long past you ever breathe your last breath.
Yeah, that's such a great answer, and also comes with a lot of true perspective and experience. And I've asked this question a number of times to different people, and frankly, I think every single time I ask, I think I learn a little bit more about what success truly is, right? Because I kind of get like a slightly different response from everyone, but I'm ultimately asking of people that actually have the ability to think deeply about success, right? And I think I'm not just asking everybody what success is, right? I think it's like, truly, have you really thought about this? And obviously you've spent lots of time thinking through what's most important and what true success means to you. So really appreciate that answer. There's plenty of other things we could discuss today. I know you've got a lot going on right now in preparation for this book launch. I want to be very respectful of your time. So as it relates to just wrapping up this particular podcast, I want to give us a moment to maybe hit on things that we did not hit on or touch on that you think are very important for people to know, and that might be of value to people that are listening into the podcast, just in simple.
Yeah. Kind of like final words of advice. So
final words of advice, but also things that are important stories or experiences that you had that I just didn't ask about, or a question I maybe should have asked and you're like, here's an answer, but you didn't ask the question.
Yeah. I'll give you like one more tool from my tool belt here that I love being able to share is like when we go out from this podcast, I want us to be like very intentional about the way that we're living our lives. Like treat perspective like a muscle. Treat your mindset like a muscle. And one of the things that I talk about in this book is having a really good mental diet. So we understand the physical diet, right? It's nasty in, nasty out, or if we eat well, our bodies perform better. I think the same thing goes for our minds. So the more we take in that positive information, we have positive interactions, the more positive we're going to be, and vice versa. The more negativity that we take in, the more negative we're going to be as people, and the less able we are to take on our challenges. So when I think of your audience, that's what I want to see in our lives, is like just that intentional approach to that information that we're putting into our minds, to have an audit of when negativity is creeping its way in, and then have real intentional things we do out the day to give ourselves that positive information, listening to podcasts like this, buying books that we know are going to inspire us, looking up stories, people who are going through difficult situations, talking to that friend that you haven't called in a while, but they always make you feel better. Little things like that. That's something that's really served me in my recovery, especially in the beginning when I had a lot of negativity bombarding its way into my mind, to have intentional things I did every day. And that's just like a really important thing that I think all of us can start doing, and even just do better right now, is to treat all those things like muscles. And if you don't work on them, they'll atrophy. But if you do challenge your mind, it's going to get stronger. So just like keep feeding it with that positivity.
I love it.
Yeah.
This also came to mind too. Social media. You've posting on social media on a consistent basis too. This is you are obviously posting on social media a good bit. Is a lot of that, like, are you posting a lot of this, or do you have somebody managing it for you now? You don't even have to answer that question, but I'm just curious to know, because social media for me, and keeping up with social media and posting in this crazy world we live in, it's such a huge part of promoting and getting your story out there. So I'm just curious how much you've been like, and when you kind of got on this social media journey, and you're growing your following accordingly.
Yeah, it started just in like such a genuine way, and it is still so genuine that it's just like opening up my life. It started with that GoFundMe campaign that we started to help pay for expenses. And I just started sharing my updates, like when I could wiggle my finger and my toe for the first time, and all those videos, everything I've explained here were like all documented throughout that GoFundMe. And I've just like continued that to really share my highest moments. But then I just share a daily rehab video every day. So once we log off here, I'm just going to get right into my walker, and I'm going to start cruising, doing laps around the house. Cool. And I put the day marker. So today, like I said, is 2,901. And I would just put that in the bottom corner, and I keep track of the days, because that's where the real victory is. It's in that like daily grind to just keep moving forward. And I mean, day 2,900, that's quite a few. And
well, I saw the daily marker and I was like, has he been doing this since the beginning? If that's huge. And that the consistency in that is amazing. And I don't think people really realize how much work it takes to just stay consistent and just to find that thing you're consistent at. And if that is literally walking around or posting once a day or doing that one thing to stay consistent and you're on your grind, I think it's so important. So consistency has been a huge, it's been a word that's been used frequently on this podcast for everybody that's doing anything with their lives. Just be consistent. Just keep doing it. Just keep going. So that's amazing. It's a huge part.
Yeah. And like that consistency of like posting has also like held me accountable too. Because you can bet, like, if I miss a couple of days, people are hitting up my DMs. They're like, "What's going on? Like, you slacking off?" And I'm like, "No. I just like took a vacation." So I think like it's because it is so just like rooted in a really genuine thing that I'm doing every day. That just makes it so much easier. To where like it's weird even for me. Like if I don't share that, I feel like I'm kind of failing myself. I'm failing others. So it helps just like put that positivity out there in the world because we all need more of it.
Big East ecosystem of accountability partners.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Huge.
I love it. Well, Rob, once again, I really appreciate it. This is the first podcast I've ever cried on. So there we go. That's occurred. That's a first. But and you've now realized how much of an ugly crier I am, and everybody's going to be able to see that. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for that moment. But truly, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got a lot going on in preparation for the book launch. And I just really appreciate you telling your story in such a genuine and real way. We need more authenticity in this world. We need more real people that are able to share their struggles and just share what their lives are like so that people can truly relate to them. And your perspective is invaluable. And once again, I just really appreciate you hopping on and sharing your story tonight.
Yeah. Cam, thank you. This just like, it made my day. I'm so excited for everybody to hear this. So all my gratitude goes to you.
Awesome. Well, we will hopefully talk very soon.
Yes. Let's do it.